It's time to rank every wide receiver ahead of week 15 fantasy football. Oh man, big time matchups this week. Big time players at this position at the top of the list. There it is. Puka Nacua, Hayden, is your wide receiver one. This is against the Detroit Lions, a Lions defense and team totally busted up due to injuries. I mean, we can just look at their corners if you want to.
Yep.
And most recently, their safeties. They'll be out without both Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, and wide receivers as a whole have scored 57% of the fantasy points allowed by the Lions this season.
Yeah, and then also Terry and Arnold is on injured reserve. Their top outside corner. Yeah, this is just a gimme. They're projected for 31 points. They're at home. The Lions could score a bunch of points on the Rams. So I have really high projections on the Lions duo as well. Yeah, I also would just guess that the Rams are probably going to live in more 3 wide receiver sets and 3 tight end sets because the Lions have really good depth at linebacker, less so in the secondary. So I think that they would just lean into, hey, if they're going to keep 3 linebackers out there, let's just start our 3 wide receivers and go to work.
Yeah. We'll see if Alex Anzalone plays. I think he's been in and out of practice this week. Yeah. Okay. So then it's Anzalone, Campbell, and they also have Derek Barnes. And so, yeah, they do run those 3 linebacker sets a lot. So it would be counterintuitive, like you said, to utilize those 3 tight ends. And yeah, they went back to that last week. 40 of 67 snaps, I believe, were out of 3 tight ends, and we still saw a drop in snaps there for Puka, albeit a couple more. But it didn't matter because he literally mossed every single Arizona corner that was available. Okay, Jamar Chase is your wide receiver 2. This is against the Baltimore Ravens. He has reached 100 receiving yards in each of the past 3 games against the Ravens, but he hasn't reached 100 receiving yards in that many games recently, it's felt like.
No, but not having T. Higgins is definitely going to help. T. Higgins went limited DNP throughout the concussion protocol. Don't like the looks of that one. Ravens defense is okay. It's not great. They just can't really rush the passer right now. So hopefully this duo can get cooking again.
They got ripped apart by Aaron Rodgers last week, as we talked about in Stats versus Film. But as Reeves noted, they've allowed just 3 touchdowns to wide receivers since week 6 of this season. So Chase might get 3 this week and just balance things out.
Mm-hmm.
Jaxon Smith-Njigba is your wide receiver 3. This is against the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, all of the well-laid plans by the Colts have just totally crumbled in the last few weeks. And that includes their cornerback position. No Sauce Gardner, no Charvarius Ward. And so now you have JSN just being the most efficient wide receiver in the NFL.
Of the decade. It's actually crazy. His yards per route run is going to go down in like history. It's that crazy. The Seahawks are 3rd in projected points. They're at home, projected for over 28. You mentioned the corners. I'll mention no DeForest Buckner still up front. So this is a great spot for the Seahawks offensive line to actually be able to hold up. Their right guard's their weakness, but the defensive tackle play for Indianapolis without DeForest Buckner is also a weakness. So I think they'll be able to hold up, throw the ball down the field.
All the Seattle Seahawks starters might sit in the 4th quarter, but we've also seen JSN be a reason why those starters sit in the entire 4th quarter, because he balls out in the opening 3.
Mm-hmm.
Amon-Ra St. Brown on the opposite end of that Puka Nacua matchup here. It's on the road against the Rams. I'll say that Akella Witherspoon and Emmanuel Forbes had good stretches of the season.
Correct.
But in the last couple of weeks, it's kind of come crashing down for both, back to kind of the average play. Yeah. And if this team is going to win this game, ARSB, JMO, and Jahmyr Gibbs will have to be the catalyst for it.
Yeah, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown's an excellent play in the pick'em lobby. So the top 3 wide receivers are projected in the 90s in terms of yards, and Amon-Ra's at like that 76.5. I think there's a lot of good things going his way. First of all, he had plenty of time to heal up. I thought he looked okay on tape when he was playing through that ankle injury. But the matchup is pristine because the Rams play a bunch of too high looks on defense, and right now the Lions have the highest EPA per dropback against too high coverages. You mentioned the cornerback play. They also got some others on injured reserve, including McCreary and Quentin Lake. So we don't get the Lions expected to lose. That's what the point spreads indicate. We're inside for Jared Goff as well. So like every positive split you can dream up for Amon-Ra St. Brown is true in this one. So I would classify him as a true elite wide receiver 1, not a regular wide receiver 1, and elite 1.
Nico Collins all the way up as wide receiver 5 on your list. This is against the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals team 29th in yards per catch to wide receivers over the past 5 weeks. Also allowed 5 touchdowns to wide receivers in that span of time. This might be the period in these final 4-ish weeks of the season where the Texans put the pedal to the metal and maybe their offense can catch up just a little bit to their defense. And if that's the case, they are not a team that you want to face in the playoffs.
Yeah, with Stroud out there, they're about average or slightly above average in the drop back game right now in terms of EPA per play. And I think that's kind of going upwards because they found the right combination across the offensive line. They're starting like a rookie tackle, so he should improve. But really, this is all about the Cardinals defense. I thought the Cardinals defense had very little fight the last couple weeks. Max Melton, their outside corner, he's not practicing. 2 of their safeties, Jalen Thompson and another, are also not practicing. So the secondary is super banged up. Their pass rush has been very mediocre this year on top of it. So I think that Stroud's making plays out of structure. And Nico Collins really should have had like an 80-yard touchdown last week. Stroud just underthrew it a little bit. They still completed the pass, but if that ball was thrown out a little bit further ahead, Nico Collins could have had like 150 yards and another score this last week. So he's proving to be like a true top 10 wide receiver in fantasy and in real life. And we should double down with the Texans projected for 26 points at home.
Big one here. I don't think AJ Brown has ranked inside the top 6 for you, maybe since prior to week 1 of the NFL season. He gets the Las Vegas Raiders here. I mean, just when I called him the second best wide receiver on his team, he's been the wide receiver 5, wide receiver 1, and wide receiver 16 in scoring over the last 3 weeks. And what's notable here, we know a Pete Carroll-led operation that the Raiders play the highest rate of cover 3 in the NFL. So the Eagles won't even have to force their opponents into single high. They'll gladly play single high stuff here, and that's where AJ Brown's at his best.
Yeah, I didn't bring that up. Our DeVonta Smith, AJ Brown's trend completely flipped as we kind of talked about that more. But it's good. Like throwing the ball to AJ Brown is largely effective. Like they're living through some of the drops. That interception drop last week was brutal, but AJ Brown is the explosive player in the offense right now. He's also running more slants in crossing routes, which has been more up and down, but that's like good for his game. Like that increases the odds that he can catch the ball and actually make a play after the catch. So there's no excuses. It's the Raiders. They just placed a starting corner on injured reserve on top of it. They have nothing to play for. It seems like they've given up. Super vanilla defense, and there's one pass rusher that they have to take care of. So, I mean, this should be a layup line for both of the Eagles wide receivers, but the ball keeps going to AJ Brown, so I'll rank him ahead.
Yeah, AJ has seen double-digit targets in 4 straight games, 3 consecutive weeks, reaching 100 yards. That's it. Davante Adams is next as your wide receiver 7. Reeves noted this. 1 more end zone target, he'll have the record for a season. They've been charting that since only like 2019, though, something like that. But that's pretty crazy that we have numerous games left. Yeah. And he's about to have that record. And it makes sense when you look at where his points are coming from. Obviously, so much of it is touchdowns. I would wager that he has the largest share of his fantasy points from touchdowns versus any other player in the league because he's averaging just 55 yards per game, his fewest since 2015.
I would say aside from Isaac Tesla, he's probably
correct
right there. Adams hasn't practiced with a hamstring injury. I think that's more just him being a veteran and not wanting to practice much. It's December. But just wanted to note that. Otherwise, fantastic. They're projected for 1 million points at home. Lions also play a lot of man coverage. We'll see if they continue to do that with both their safeties out. Also, no Terry and Arnold. But against man coverage, that's why they acquired Davante Adams. So this is a fantastic spot.
George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb are back-to-back at wide receiver 8 and wide receiver 9. But you have Pickens 1 spot ahead. This is against the Minnesota Vikings. We all watched the Thursday Night Football, I'll call it meltdown of the entire offense. Averaged 103 yards per game prior to that over the last 6 weeks. And then CeeDee Lamb basically suffered concussion. However, he's been practicing all week and seems ready to go here. So the Vikings, it's like been hot and cold as a defense in totality. But apparently they haven't allowed a touchdown to a wide receiver since week 9 of this season.
Well, they haven't faced George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb since week 9. So that's what I'm going with. They're projected for almost 27 points. It's at home. Vikings defense fools a lot of really good teams, but Dak Prescott has seen everything. I actually really trust the Cowboys staff as well. So I'm assuming George Pickens is, going to have his head on straight here. And then CeeDee Lamb is full participant in practice. So I think having the extra couple of days since the Thursday night game has helped him out. So I'm expecting both of them to be out there. Jake Ferguson's going through the motions in practice too with his own injury, but George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb have both been top 10 receivers the entire season, even when they've been out there together. So there's nothing about this matchup that overly scares me. If they blitz a bunch, I do think that both these guys, yards after the catch wise, could just really gash them. And Dak Prescott's just, he's seen everything.
On that note, against the blitz, I mean, he has 32% of the targets CeeDee Lamb does against the blitz for over 4 yards per route run. And we know that the Vikings do blitz 47% of the time, which is the highest rate in the league. So it makes sense. Like, fill the void that the blitz is coming from with the guy that gets moved around from his different alignments, and that is CeeDee Lamb.
And the Vikings, when they do their blitzes, they'll still stay in too high coverage for a lot of those. So like the only way to beat it is to quickly throw the ball out underneath, which obviously both of them can do it, but that does lean a little bit more towards CeeDee Lamb.
Okay. I mean, we have 2 Rams in the top. We have 2 Cowboys in the top 10. And then here's your second Detroit Lion in the top 10. This is Jameson Williams, again, against the Rams. A big shift. And we talked about this in the opening 5, 6, 7 weeks of the season, where he was only being targeted down the field. And those are high variance targets. Now, 8.3% of his targets have been throws 20 or more yards down the field, versus previously that was about like 30%. So we are getting the gimmies, we're getting the crossers. Dan Campbell understands that Jameson Williams is not just, hey, can run fast before the catch. He can also run fast after the catch. So get him the football as quickly as possible.
Yeah, just a really clean spot. I did want to mention all the teams that we've talked about are like in domes or on the West Coast where we're not dealing with like 18-degree weather. So that's like another advantage all these top 10 wide receivers have versus the next wide receivers that we're going to talk about. With JMO, if he's going to be facing Emmanuel Forbes and JMO's primary weakness, which is just physicality, gets, that's no longer a weakness, because Emmanuel Forbes is like actually weaker than JMO is. So he's been awesome since week 10, averaging 15 half PPR points, wide receiver 23 usage. That's when Dan Campbell started taking over. That's also when Sam Laporta left the field. So they're projected for 61 points according to the Underdog Pick'em lobby in terms of yards for JMO. So I think that he's a surefire wide receiver 1 right now.
Rashee Rice, your wide receiver 11. I would say if you look under the hood, this is one of those matchups that Rashee Rice should feast in. Now, that's only if, Jesse Minter and the Chargers kind of stick to their previous tendencies. 2 high safeties, 4th highest rate in the league. They're 30th in rate of man coverage. And so like when we get those types of alignments and situations, this is typically a Rashee Rice to the moon situation.
Definitely is. I have the same exact notes, like almost entirely zone coverage, almost entirely no blitzes, almost entirely, throws underneath is what they want to give up. And the Chargers have been like, I think a little bit susceptible to ground games, but the Chiefs don't have one. So this does make sense for Rashee Rice to get peppered. They are only projected for 23 points. All the other teams are talking about, for the most part, like 30, 28, 27. So a slight decrease there. And then on top of that, the Chargers do allow those type of receptions, but they're also extremely good. They're 4th in EPA per drop back, 4th in success rate against passes. So I think right now, Rashee Rice is like clearly good, but there's still definitely some flaws to his game. And the Chargers defense has just been playing really, really, really clean football. So I like him. I just don't love him like a true like top 10 real life wide receiver.
Apparently Rashee Rice has 17 red zone targets, while the next closest player on the team, what do you think that is? Next closest player on the team, what number?
Man, 8, Travis Kelce.
4.
Yikes. Yeah, he's already top 5 across the league, and he's played half the season in red zone stuff. It's wild.
Because of that, I'll take Rashee Rice, just higher touchdown. Get 1 single touchdown. That's what we're playing this week on Underdog. Again, 17 red zone targets for him. The next closest player is on 4. If you want to join me on that journey, the best place to play is on Underdog. Use promo code The Show. Click the link in the description down below. If you play $5 your first time, we'll throw $75 in bonus credits in your direction. We're in over 40 states right now, 20 in prediction markets. If instead you want to take the sides and the totals, if you think the Chargers are more likely to cover the 5.5 than the books do, then go and play over on Underdog. Again, support us by supporting the Dog app. Next, the man of the month. It is Michael Wilson. Surprised, maybe, that he's only the wide receiver 12? He's
Really?
on the road at the Houston Texans, because every single time Michael Wilson is lined up without Marvin Harrison Jr. this season, he's been a top 7 option. Yeah. And we already know that Marv is out this week with his heel injury.
He's been the wide receiver 1 overall on wide receiver 1 overall usage this month, largely without Marvin Harrison. That's going to be the case here. Just wanted to note, I love Michael Wilson. This is also going to be a little bit of a challenge. You're in Houston. Jacoby Brissett is not going to have his left tackle, one of his guards, and his right tackle against this pass rush. So, and he's going to have to do this against Derek Stingley and the boys. So I'll say this is the toughest test we've seen from this combination here. Team totals like at 16 points. That feels about right going up against Houston. Did want to note Kamari Lassiter, the second corner, he's in with a foot injury. He didn't practice the first 2 days. He might go out there and try to play through it. But the only times when Derek Stingley has played on the right side of the defense, because he only plays on the left, is like without Kamari Lassiter against like really big Courtland Sutton, Mike Evans, Davante Adams types. I'm not sure if Michael Wilson is at the caliber of a wide receiver where he would get shadow treatment. That was gonna be my question to you, is like, where do we slot on Michael Wilson?
Well, yeah, who's the second pass catcher on the outside? Like, why
do you think he would travel?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's bad news for Derek Stingley, because Michael Wilson is that dude.
That's what I'm saying. You said this is going to be a tough test for Michael Wilson. Why isn't this a tough test for D'Amico Ryan's Derek Stingley, that Michael Wilson's coming to town?
Right.
You know?
Right. Now, which wide receiver would you slot him ahead? Because the other guys are in pretty clean matchups across the board. Yeah.
I think this is fine.
Yeah.
I think this is fine.
You have to start.
Everyone has to start him. For real. In the pick 'em lobby, he's at 60.5 receiving yards, 5.5 receptions right now, 10.35 half PPR fantasy points.
If I was going to take anything, just give me the targets, because Jacoby Brissett has no choice whether they're completed or not. He's
7.5 targets.
That's the one.
Bang. Adding that. Next up, Jakobi Meyers against the New York Jets. Speaking of targets, 10 targets last week. Now, only about 3 of them were caught, but he also has a touchdown in 3 straight games. Our buddy Ron Stewart noted this, that all these slot over the middle routes and Jakobi Meyers being like a very consistent presence in this offense that they've been yearning for all season long. This is basically what we probably would have gotten, and maybe even to a better degree, from Travis Hunter out of the bye week.
I totally agree. But for Jakobi Meyers drafters, this is the best spot of the year. Jarvis Brownlee, the slot corner for the Jets, he went to IR. Their top corner right now, AZ Thomas, he hasn't practiced. So we're dealing with backups to backups, no Sauce Gardner, no Quinnen Williams. So the Jets defense has like truly nobody right now out there. And Jakobi Meyers, the wide receiver 14 on wide receiver 13 usage this month. Last week was actually a season high in his expected points. It was probably the best game I've ever seen Trevor Lawrence play. And the Jaguars have the 4th highest team total of the week. And it's kind of a pass funnel against New York in general. So there's like not a single bad thing I can say about Jakobi Meyers other than talent-wise, he's just a cut below everybody else we've talked about. But everything else about Jacksonville looks awesome right now.
If you are anything like me, you wait until the last minute to get certain people in your family gifts. It can be extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, even sometimes parents, grandparents. I have the perfect one for all of you. Yes. Bang. It's the Aura Carver matte frame. The cool thing about Aura is everything's online. You can just straight upload from your phone pictures into this frame. One, your parents, grandparents, whatever, will not annoy you any longer to say, hey, send me a photo of your child, my grandchild, so on and so forth. And 2, I mean, you can even look at this. Take off this slide. It's already set up perfectly to just be wrapped. It looks nice. It has free unlimited photo storage. Again, as soon as you take a photo of, let's say, your kid's soccer game, or man, they take their first steps, boom, upload to your Aura frame, and they see it instantly from their living room. It's going to turn to like their favorite activity just to see the new photos every single morning. So for a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code THESHOW at checkout. That's AURA frames.com. Promo code The Show. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Tetairoa McMillan, wide receiver 14 at the New Orleans Saints in a dome. The full complement of wide receivers on display here for the Panthers. And if you win this one, man, you really control the rest of the season. So T-Mac just one catch the last time we saw him against the Rams. That one catch also won the game and was like a 40-yard touchdown. He should be offensive rookie of the year. That's pretty obvious to me.
Yeah, he's a huge favorite, as he should be. I think that he would go top 5 if we're redoing the draft right now. He looks awesome. Did want to mention real quick, Brandon Staley's just a really good coach. You know, I mean, how good has the Saints defense been like versus
really
their
good.
Like talent? Like it's actually crazy what they've been able to pull off. Like this is not like the cupcake matchup. Do like it though, because you know, we're inside a dome, which does matter because the rest of the country it's freaking freezing out there. They're projected for 21.25 points. So yeah, I think that he's a totally fine player as a wide receiver 20 in usage this month. We get the post-bye rookie bump here. If there's anything we can even dream up, I don't even know what he would be improving on for the most part. And they give him the ball plenty. So he's a rock solid upside wide receiver too.
Legit. The only thing he could improve on is like 1 drop per game. Right. He has about 1 drop per game. And if he seemingly becomes the wide receiver with the best hands in the league too, like that is, he's so good. He's really freaking good.
It's awesome.
Chris Olave on the opposite sideline is your next wide receiver at 15. Last time they played, Olave went off. He magically forced JC Horn to fall down on a long 62-yard touchdown along the sideline. All sincerity here. Panthers run a ton of single high stuff, and Tyler Shuck will take his vertical shots.
Yes.
And so if Chris Olave just wins one of those, bang, you have a solid fantasy start in your lineup at the least.
Yep, totally agree here. He's been a wide receiver too with Tyler Shuck. I went back and watched the Tyler Shuck game, and there was a rep one-on-one, like you mentioned, where Chris Olave wins immediately from the line of scrimmage, starts to stack the corner. The corner kind of yanks him, and they don't call a penalty on it. Otherwise, it would have just been a long touchdown. So Tyler Shuck can spin the football. He's extending the plays a little bit, which I think eventually will help Chris Olave. And I think that the Panthers defense is like not horrific. It's just fine right now. They got guys that can run in the secondary, but they're not like truly standout caliber players. So I feel good about where Tyler Shuck has been so far.
DeVonta Smith, wide receiver 16 against the aforementioned Raiders. He's seen 8 or more targets in 3 straight games. It just hasn't hit quite to the effectiveness as the AJ Brown stuff. But if we talked up AJ Brown, we know that DeVonta has the same exact talent to do the same exact thing on the opposite side.
Yeah, and even DeVonta Smith has like the zone splits are actually still in favor of DeVonta Smith over AJ Brown if you want to play that game, because the Raiders do play a lot of zone. I was going to mention the same thing. He's the wide receiver 25 in usage this month. He just happens to be the wide receiver 50 in scoring. He's been somebody that's like routinely dunked on my model for his entire career because he's really good. This is like the one time where you can actually buy the dip on DeVonta Smith based off what the model's spitting out too. And we know he's a very good football player. So like there's really no excuses for Jalen Hurts and everybody here. It's a very good spot for DeVonta Smith.
Terry McLaurin checks in as wide receiver 17. This is at the New York Giants. His bump in route participation jumped by about 12% up to 72%. This Giants team is horrific at stopping downfield shots. They're 30th in the league, allowing 21 receptions to receivers 20 plus yards down the field. Yep. It is Marcus Mariota throwing the football, but that hasn't been terrible this season at all.
I mean, for the last 3 years, I checked in on this because Marcus Mariota is a pending free agent. I was writing my top 10 free agents by position. Mariota's, he's only the quarterback 2 in completion percentage over expected over multiple years of data. So obviously Terry McLaurin is helping that out. Also, Mariota's throwing the ball at the 3rd highest air yards per attempt in over that sample too. So a lot of the stuff that Mariota's been good at has been where Terry McLaurin's been really good at. So like you mentioned, the Giants are firing their defensive coaches and benching their starting defensive players in the secondary. So it's a good spot. I saw W. Instead, it's Wan'Dale Robinson is up next as your wide receiver 18. His 2 best weeks have been without
Jackson Dart this season, but maybe this is the performance that, he and Dart go nuts against this Washington Commanders secondary, a secondary that 47% of the receptions that they allow have come from the slot, which is the highest rate in the league.
Yeah, and they're just like experimenting in the secondary at this point. Dan Quinn's defense is just so static, so boring, and just really so bad. So they're without their top 2 corners, which means that Sandersville is going to play on the outside, but also their other outside corner that would be starting, he hasn't practiced in Jonathan Jones. We're looking like cornerback 5, 6, and 7 pretty much going to get some snaps here. Just wanted to keep mentioning the Giants are 12th in EPA per play this season. And they have a 24% or 24-point team total this week. And Wan'Dale Robinson's the wide receiver 12 in expected fantasy points, and he's running more downfield routes because he's got quarterbacks that want to push the ball downfield. He's even playing a little bit more on the outside. So this is, like, to me, all fairly real stuff for Wan'Dale. Somebody like I've not really liked his tape for a lot of his career. He's doing new things, and I think a lot of it's just Jackson Dart wants to push the ball down the field. Same thing with Jameis and Russ. So you have like legitimate pass to downfield plays now.
5'3" with an attitude. That's Wan'Dale Robinson.
Definitely so.
Yes, his longest reception on Underdog is at 20.5 receiving yards.
Yeah,
which is not something you would have attached to Wan'Dale Robinson in previous seasons. Jaylen Waddle is now on the board as wide receiver 19. This is at the Pittsburgh Steelers, a Steelers defense that just lost TJ Watt. I'll give you an update on that in a moment. And this Dolphins team, I mean, again, less than 1% to make the playoffs, but over the past 5-6 weeks has legit been one of the most consistent operations across the league, both kind of on offense and on defense.
Yeah, they're just so well coached on both sides of the ball. Like, that's just the reality. Their defense coordinator kicks ass, and so does their head coach who calls the plays. So really, like, it's been the ground game, and that's why Jaylen Waddle's like fantasy points is kind of stagnated. Most recently, he had like one like true dud, and the rest of the games have been like pretty solid. He's a wide receiver 28 in usage this month, but the team is dead last in wide receiver usage in general. So it's been a very balanced attack. I think that the Steelers secondary is just okay. They got something with Jalen Ramsey in the secondary. Their corners can be a little bit up and down, but the TJ Watt injury does matter quite a bit because he was going to be going up against the right tackle, which is one of the weaknesses of the entire roster. So that's that.
JJ Watt. Yesterday, TJ had successful surgery to stabilize and repair partially collapsed lungs suffered Wednesday after a dry needling treatment session at the facility. So I guess a needle from the outside then
steroids
punctured his lung.
Acupuncture? What is this?
I don't know.
Tyrod Taylor? I don't know which one.
That seems wild. All right. Christian Watson is your wide receiver 20. This is at the Denver Broncos. Christian Watson, Packers wide receiver 1. I mean, he has 27% of Green Bay's targets, which across the league, if you look at target share, that's been wide receiver 13 in that span with 5 touchdowns as well. Tied for Davante Adams, the most across the league. So I understand if he's not running every single route, but guess what? When he is on the field, he is the go-to big premier, take this offense over the top type of player. Now he's running up against Patrick Surtain and company on this Broncos defense, though.
Yeah, this one's super complicated. If you guys want to rank him as a top 15 guy or rank him as a wide receiver 30, I can hear both cases, kind of just splitting the difference here. He looks awesome on tape. His numbers on a per route basis are the second best in the entire league, only behind Kayshon Boutte. But he's going to see probably a lot of Patrick Surtain. Patrick Surtain should shadow Christian Watson because he's clearly their best wide receiver right now. Jordan Love is the best in EPA per dropback across the league. That remains true against single high. That remains true against man coverage. And that's what the Broncos play defensively. Now, they're really good at it. So the Packers are only projected for 22 points. And we keep mentioning the routes because he's a total outlier. Like last week, he ran 21 routes. So even if you're averaging 3 yards per route, we're talking about 60 yards kind of projected, and almost nobody averages 3 yards per route run. So that's why we keep mentioning the routes because like they are so low. Now you get against Patrick Surtain, but man, his tape's been excellent.
He does average 3 yards per route though. He does 2.87,
so
which is wide receiver 5 in that span of time.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Yeah. I mean, he is a critical piece to this team. So To me, it's one of those model breaker type elements here. I also think that like if they were trailing and really pushing the gas, then they would probably have Christian Watson out there a bit more than Dontayvion Wicks and Bo Melton and some of these other guys. Just a thought.
That is true. Also, we'll get to Jayden Reed in a second, but Jayden Reed I think he's going to be the one that's going to stir the pot in this game.
Okay, Zay Flowers is wide receiver 21. That is at the Cincinnati Bengals. Last time he faced the Bengals, I think this was Thanksgiving. Just 2 catches for 6 yards.
Yep.
He had 4 targets in that game that were deemed uncatchable. The Bengals have allowed just one 100-yard wide receiver this year, and you can tell me why.
DJ Turner, man, when he's not punching the ball out at the goal line, he's locking up opposing wide receiver ones. So he got stuck on DJ Turner Island. It's partially because DJ Turner is a tremendous athlete and very good coverage corner. It's also because their linebackers and safeties are so bad that they just can't stop the tight ends and running backs. So teams are just like, we'll just throw it to those positions instead. So yeah, they're projected for a bunch of points. The Bengals defense is so bad that you can still think that Zay Flowers is going to be able to get behind or over the top or have a yards after the catch moment. But this is kind of where he's been for, even when Lamar Jackson's been healthy for years and years. He's kind of outside the top 20 in wide receiver points. So I'm sticking with it.
Jauan Jennings is next as wide receiver 22. He's topped 55 yards twice this season, but he has scored in 4 of his last 5 games. And we'll talk about Ricky Pearsall actually a little bit later on, but you could not script up a better coming out of a bye performance than against this Tennessee Titans destroyed defense at this moment.
Super destroyed, and their best player, Jeffrey Simmons, is going to be a handful against the runs. They might just like pass the ball earlier in this game than you'd expect. More importantly, they're projected for almost 29 points. It's the second most on the week. They're at home. They're not dealing with the crazy weather that we're seeing across the country. Since George Kittle's return in week 7, Jauan Jennings averaging 10 half PPR points on wide receiver 26 usage. That really hasn't dropped that much with Ricky Pearsall back in the lineup, just because Ricky and Jauan Jennings could not be more different in terms of how they're used, the routes or type of running. And I think it would make sense if Jauan Jennings like kind of keeps this up in terms of like touchdowns over expected, just the way that they use them. Like they'll get him even on cheat motions in the red area. So yeah, yardage is lower than other guys in this range, but his touchdown odds are higher.
DK Metcalf. What a game against the Baltimore Ravens. One we all expected, obviously. We can predict something like that. Now we get the Miami secondary, which their depth chart, terrible on the field and via the coaching staff, quite good. But Sunday, this past week, was the first time he cleared 55 receiving yards in a game since week 6. So is this a trend or was that an outlier, Hayden?
I mean, I've never gotten DK Metcalf right the entire season, so I'm not the guy to ask. Did want to just put a little data point. Since the end of September, the Dolphins are 13th in drop back per EPA, but that's actually gotten like better than that even more recently. So we'll see. Up front, no Broderick Jones at left tackle, and then also his backup, Andres Pete, in concussion protocol. So we're talking about a third stringer at left tackle, most likely for Aaron Rodgers. So they're still doing like the stuff, like the checks at the line of scrimmage, like little quick passes, a fade jump ball to DK Metcalf. That you are getting a little bit of that. So it's not just strictly downfield stuff for Metcalf right now.
Well, here's Justin Jefferson. It's like, which side is going to win out here? Is it facing off against a beat up Dallas Cowboys secondary that has been kind of picked apart at different points this season? Or is it that Justin Jefferson is off the 2 lowest receiving totals of his career over the last 2 games?
Well, you go back and watch the tape, against my will, and both of Justin Jefferson's receptions were on screens too. So they have not completed like a normal pass to him with JJ McCarthy in like almost a month. So yeah, you guys can make your own decision on how you guys want to play this. This feels about right. He's had 6 games with JJ McCarthy. He's the wide receiver 31 in those games, the wide receiver 21 in usage. So I think that he is like a wide receiver 3 if you're looking at the average stats. And then now you get pass funnel Cowboys in a dome, and they're expected to lose. So I think you kind of have to just roll the dice, and hopefully that the seam balls that JJ McCarthy has been able to throw in a couple out routes, they're actually completed to Justin Jefferson. But you guys know the deal.
I mean, you can basically average that Dallas is allowing 19 fantasy points per game to wide receiver ones, and then average over the last 2 games, Justin Jefferson having like 1 fantasy point.
Yeah.
And then right in the middle was like 9.5.
Correct.
So there you go.
I think honestly, that's good math. It's better than anything I can come up with right now.
Deebo Samuel, wide receiver 25, 7 catches for 77 yards when these teams played back in week 1. He had a 19-yard rushing score at the exact same time. That was not Marcus Mariota at quarterback. But Hayden, what are we expecting here against a Giants defense that we talked about?
Yeah.
Banged up, firing people everywhere. And I'm sure that they would want to kind of play spoiler in terms of maybe some positivity that the Giants are hoping to generate for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think an injured version of Jayden Daniels versus where Marcus Mariota, it's like not that big of a drop off at this point. The big ones with Terry McLaurin back, because Terry looks awesome on tape, and then in the 6 games with Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel's wide receiver 28 in terms of usage. He still looks solid, but I will say there's a little bit of a difference between, December Deebo Samuel versus what we saw in September. Like there's some concentration stuff. His like first step explosiveness seems like a little bit more sluggish now than it was earlier. That would make sense. He's just like taken so many hits this year and elsewhere. So I think he's this much worse right now. And Terry McLaurin looks awesome. So I'm gonna flip it where it used to be Deebo Samuel over Terry McLaurin. Now I think that the tape deserves a flippening.
Well, let's talk BTJ, 2nd round pick BTJ in your fantasy drafts this year. Wide receiver 26. This is against the New York Jets. He had 3 chunk gains last week in the elements of over 15 yards.
Yep.
I mean, his ADOT is 22 yards since returning to the lineup. And so you're kind of hoping for one of those deep shots to not only get 30 yards, but also maybe hit a touchdown. And that could happen here against the Jets.
Yep. Talked about it. Jarvis Brownlee, the slot corners on IR, and then AZ Thomas, a rookie, has been playing on the outside without Sauce Gardner. He hasn't practiced. So it's a good matchup for Brian Thomas to get down the field. It's also a defense that schematically they want to play some man coverage. We'll see if they can stick to that with a bunch of backups at corner. But if that's the case, Brian Thomas looks healthy on tape, getting over the top. And I do think they found something with just like not even asking him to run the dig routes and slant routes. It's like, all right, you're just winning down the field and you have to roll the dice, and it takes a while for those to kind of come through, but there will be a 100-yard and touchdown game from Brian Thomas by the end of the season. And if I had to guess which one it's going to be, this would be the best bet for it.
Talk to me about your favorite player in the NFL, Courtland Sutton against the Green Bay Packers as wide receiver 27 for you.
Well, first of all, it's a great take. He's awesome. But we'll see. Watching for Pat Bryant, questionable. I think it's like a hamstring injury right now. Hasn't practiced much this week, so we'll have to get the latest with that. This is not a clean matchup for him. Most offenses that face the Packers try to run the ball. And that's especially true. The Packers are missing a defensive tackle, so we'll see. They play a lot of zone coverage, and sometimes Courtland Sutton will just like go dunk on dudes against man coverage. So it's not like the cleanest on paper matchup, but we haven't seen the Broncos lose very often this year, and we could just see like more chasing points. At least that's possible this week against the Packers. So I'm kind of holding the line with Courtland Sutton as wide receiver 3.
Let's talk about Stefon Diggs as your wide receiver 28 against the Buffalo Bills. I swear, the first time he faced the Bills this season, the entire discourse was just about revenge game stuff. And we haven't heard a single note on that this week, despite that game against the Bills. He caught 10 of 12 targets for 146 yards. I feel like everyone is now just focusing in on, well, he hasn't had a matchup that great since then, but maybe he can just go back and do the exact same thing, albeit obviously much later in the season. The Bills have gotten healthier at corner, so on and so forth. But it's one of those to me that, hey, kind of threw out some tendencies and route participation of the last few weeks. I think Stefon Diggs in this matchup, when Josh McDaniels and company got to have this game in terms of on the offensive side of the ball, Diggs is probably going to at least equal what he did in route participation in that first matchup.
Well, I think no one's talking about the revenge because he already got it. I mean, you hang up 10 receptions for 146 and you're on the team that's ahead in the standings. I think like the revenge has like been settled at this point. Went back and watched that game. He did beat, I think it was like Tre'Davious White in man coverage for a couple snaps, but for the most part, it was just him settling in against zone coverage like repeatedly, and he had some really nice yards after the catch moments. He's probably going to dodge Christian Benford, one schematically, but also Christian Benford. He had a toe injury in practice, and I think he's going to trend towards not even playing at all. That's by far their best player in the secondary. Now you get like rookies and like 35-year-olds, kind of in the secondary. So I don't think this is like the super difficult matchup that we talked about, because I do think that Benford is like the most important player, and then Bosa right now has kind of been limited as well. So the only negative thing I can say about Stefon Diggs is that he ran 63% of the routes last week.
That's what I'm saying.
But is that because they have Kayshawn back, Kyle Williams is flashing, Matt Collins is going to go out there and block, Pap Douglas has been efficient whenever he's been out there? Like, I wonder if they feel good about Diggs kind of being in this like minimal hybrid role. Now, if you're going to make the exception, this would be the case. But
they're also home underdogs in this game. Like,
yeah.
I'm taking the higher on Stefon Diggs, 53.5 receiving yards, and feeling good about it.
Yeah, I mean, he tripled that up the first outing. So.
Yep. Lad McConkey is wide receiver 29. This is at the Kansas City Chiefs. He now has just 64 receiving yards over the past 3 games. Is that going to change against the Chiefs?
Has anything happened in the last 3 games? Like a certain left tackle that's not out there? Is Herbert running for his life? Is there a broken hand? There's obvious reasons why this has happened. They have no chance at stopping Chris Jones. Chris Jones looks tremendous on the interior. So for all those reasons, that's why the Chargers are projected for 18 points this week. So like right there by, some of the worst teams in the NFL. So that's the reality of the situation. Lad McConkey got absolutely destroyed by Cooper DeJean this last week. I will say he doesn't only play in the slot, he plays on the outside, and he will see McDuffie and their other corner who's really good. They are over the years a little bit weaker in the slot. Their safety play has been a little bit inconsistent. They got more like thumper linebacker type. So like if you really want to read between the lines, it's not the worst matchup for Lad McConkey, but I think for the most part, the Chargers offense is it's a bad one right now.
I believe the Chiefs are second in the NFL in terms of 2 high looks, and that's really good for Lad in terms of like finding space and sitting in it underneath. So I'm leaving the light on for Lad this week. I'm also leaving the light on for Ricky Pearsall. We already talked about Jauan Jennings. Ricky Pearsall, despite not being productive, has been on the field all the time from 85% to 94%. And the Titans have just been flat out terrible against wide receivers. So if your theory is correct of we're not going to run at Jeffrey Simmons and company, then I could see an early deep shot to Ricky Pearsall over top of these backup to trade away cornerbacks on the Titans roster.
I see it the same way. He's at 33.5 receiving yards across the game. I'd be curious what his half time numbers are in the pick'em lobby, because that's kind of where I would be going. Because in the second half, they might not have to pass the ball at all. So
14.5 first half receiving yards here for Ricky Pearsall.
That's the one I would be going for. Now let's set baselines. This month, he's the wide receiver 112 per game. So it has not been working out for Ricky Pearsall, but everything about the matchup, and I don't think that Pearsall is really doing anything wrong. He's just running the clear out routes, and all the guys running the routes underneath are wide ass open. Like Kittle wide ass open, CMC open, Jauan Jennings even gets open. So like there's no reason to throw the ball 50 yards down the field if everyone else is wide open. So volume's the big concern here. Everything about this though would scream like you can do worse than ladders, like that type of stuff with Ricky Pearsall makes sense to me.
Totally with you on all of that. And if we're talking about weather everywhere else, I'm just assuming in the Bay Area, like the maybe wind won't be as furious as it is in some of these other spots. So
it might be foggy. That's what they get up there in the Bay weather.
All right, let's talk about, because it's finally happened, a miracle in our lives. Hayden Winks has ranked Luther Burden as the top Chicago Bears wide receiver at 31 here against the Cleveland Browns. Again, over the past 5 games, he leads this team in receiving yards. And now it's a tough test for this offense against, for most of the season, a very good Browns defense.
I'm tracking Denzel Ward. He has not practiced much. I think he's going to be officially questionable here. Denzel Ward is extremely good. Luther Burden's playing a lot on the outside, which I think is good for his development, but bad for this individual matchup because he will see Denzel Ward. They play a lot of man coverage, which Luther Burden's going to have to be on his P's and Q's if it is Denzel Ward out there. And then on top of that, he ran around on 67% of the dropbacks last week without Rome Odunze. They got like Olamide Zaccheaus, of course, more involved. So it's not a clean matchup. They are projected for like over 23 points, which is still above average despite facing the Browns. So yeah, he's a dart throw right now. He's projected for 39.5 yards, but he is one of the guys that could pop off for 75 yards plus. What a curl route that he had, that big comeback route last week. You posted on Twitter. That was a good one.
Jayden Higgins, wide receiver 32. The other Texans wide receiver, they're also still getting a heavy rotation out there. I think he was on the field for just 54% of dropbacks on Sunday as well. He still hasn't hit over 70, I think, in any of the 5 straight games. Yeah. But he is a towering presence.
Yes, he is.
And if he's going to catch it over the top of these, corners, that is entirely possible here.
I think for a rookie, he's got pretty decent feel for zone coverage, and that's going to come in handy against the Cardinals, and they run some kind of funky zone looks. So I like that for Jayden Higgins. He's pretty limited just because he's out there for just over half the dropbacks, like you mentioned. But that's still about 9.5 PPR points per game over the last 5 games with Nico Collins out there. This is not going to be, in Kansas City like it was last week, where I thought the matchup was terrible for him. And that was obviously not a good game for him. But I think his tape's been all right. Part-time player. The team's projected for 26 points at least.
Your second favorite player in the NFL, Darius Slayton on the board. Talk to me against this Commanders secondary. It's as simple as, does he catch the long pass or does he not?
And there's no guarantees with that. So that's between Darius Slayton and his Lord, whoever that is.
In his hands.
I have nothing to say about that. I will say this. His last 4 healthy games with Jackson Dart, he's averaging 8.6 points. It's very up and down on those games, as it always is. But the Giants projected for 24 points. The Commanders don't have their top 2 corners. And then Jonathan Jones, their backup corner, he is not practicing. So we're talking about the backups of backups. And the Giants are an above average offense with Jackson Dart out there. So, and I also think there's some chemistry. Jackson Dart outside the pocket, throwing the ball down the field. We've seen that at times, and Slayton just drops it. I swear, if he catches one of these, he's going to have a big game. So he's a good ladders play. 34.5 yards in the pick'em lobby. I will be visiting the ops team.
Hayden is putting his Sunday down on Darius.
I need one because the ops team's like, thank you for your money. Thank you very much. You did it again.
You mentioned Jayden Reed earlier could be a sneaky play this week. Why?
Well, just Patrick Surtain's going to be on the outside, and they're worse against the slot. You get some like pretty aggressive safeties and linebackers. And I think that Jayden Reed could be the answer to that test. They also play a lot of man coverage in Denver, and Jayden Reed could beat that over the top, and he's got good explosive ability. So he's stuck in this role. Like the reality is he's going to run 20 routes this game. But I think that he could be somebody that LaFleur has highlighted to make sure he gets the ball out. So that's kind of where I'm looking. It just makes sense to throw the ball into the slot, not to Patrick Surtain. But 63% of the dropbacks is only 63% of the dropbacks. So all the guys we're talking about, I like them, and they're not full-time players. That's what the wide receiver 3s are right now.
All right, we're in the slot session of this program. Khalil Shakir is next at the New England Patriots. When they played back in week 5, he caught 6 of 9 targets. And you think, man, what a great day. 45 yards. Yeah. Basically, he has to catch one of those and break a tackle. And I would say that the Patriots have been one of the better tackling teams all season long.
Yeah. Well, their linebackers and safeties are just humongous. Like they got like the throwback type of linebackers. So they're not going to, have tackles broken on them, but you could kind of run by them. And I think that's what the Bills are going to possibly do here. Go 3 wide, get these kind of bigger linebackers on the field and see if you can like run kind of right by them. So that all plays into Khalil Shakir. It's like not a surprise that he was more targeted in that game than for the rest of the season. Once again, 62% of dropbacks last week will only play in the slot. But I do think that this game could be a little bit more pass heavy than you would think, just because I think both defenses on paper look okay in the secondary, but they really haven't faced the most difficult schedules. I think that the Bills' injury in the secondary is a big deal. And then Khalil Shakir is going to be dodging their best outside corners by playing in the slot.
Okay, it's taking us to wide receiver 36 to talk about the first Colts pass catcher. That's frustrating, but it makes sense when you look at their projected points. It's all the way down at 14.25. And by the way, we're never going to bring up a Raiders wide receiver here on the show.
Of course not.
Because they're at 13.5. But 14.25 here for Phillip Rivers, who, by the way, in his introductory press conference said, well, we're going to have to run the ball and play defense.
Yeah, they are. I did go back. I was like, is this going to be like the oldest a quarterback has? And then I realized Tom Brady really had 5,316 yards at 44 years old. 5,316 yards. So, yeah, I think that he's going to have a fighting chance. You know, they're going to have to drop back because they're projected to lose by 2 touchdowns. Like, what are you going to do? Like, run the ball a million times in the second half? I mean, maybe they do that. Phillip Rivers could diagnose defenses and throw the ball 10 yards. I do think he can do that. And
this is the worst possible matchup, though, because
I agree. Oh, yeah.
During his tenure in the NFL, he did not face off against Mike McDonald.
No. And they're disguising coverages a lot more. So we'll see. And then, like, I was listening to like Kurt Warner and other former quarterbacks. They're like, his arm's going to be okay. It was never like that good the last stage of his career anyways. He's not going to run by anybody. He's more worried about how fast the game's played. Like, are you mentally able to find the answer as you did 5 years ago? I will say, if there's going to be a wide receiver that can pull this off, to me, it would be Pittman's. Like, if we're doing some RPO stuff and some quick hitting stuff, that's kind of where Michael Pittman's eaten. But I'm so fascinated by this one. And I'm also worried because they're not going to have the right tackle in Braden Smith. He's in concussion protocol. So,
yeah. And by the way, Riley Leonard has been practicing in full. But all the beats expect Phillip Rivers to start here. Xavier Worthy, all the way down as wide receiver 37. This is against the Chargers. Let's remember week 1. This was when Xavier Worthy had his shoulder destroyed in the opening game.
Second play.
He's had a high of 61 yards since Rashee Rice has returned, has not topped 4 receptions in a game since week 8. Chiefs have to win. And if they have to win, I mean, we are still hoping one day maybe we'll get another Xavier Worthy long touchdown eventually in 5 years.
Yeah, we'll see. At least it's like zone coverage, because the man coverage stuff for Xavier Worthy, sometimes he just gets completely manhandled, but it's also the Chargers' really good zone coverage. So the team total is lower than it usually is for the Chiefs. And he's been the wide receiver 40 and wide receiver 43 usage this month. So maybe I should move him up a couple spots. But I mean, the reality is you've been eliminated. To have Xavier Worthy.
I am not suggesting you move him up. I am just talking about the status.
Yeah, it's not great
now. I mean, and the status for Adonai Mitchell is that Brady Cook is going to be his quarterback. That's a total of 14 points in this game. That really sucks.
Yeah, I mean, Brady Cooks, he went undrafted for a reason. You know, I'll leave it at that. I will say Mason Taylor is not expected to play with a neck injury. Garrett Wilson not out there yet. Breece Hall dealing with knee soreness. So it's like you'd have to assume they get 100 yards on offense this game. And Adonai Mitchell is going to be a big chunk of that. But you know what you're signing up for when you're starting Jets in December.
Devon Vele is up next. He's had one very good game.
Mm-hmm.
2 pretty poor outings in terms of fantasy points. Yeah. Anything else you want to add here, or with Jerry Jeudy to close this thing out at the Chicago Bears, who has only cleared 50 yards twice since week 2, albeit one of those was last week against the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah. So starting with Vele, he's out there for like full-time snaps. I think that the offense is kind of settled in a little bit with Tyler Shuck. Expected to lose at home in a dome. So I do think that Vele is like, he's out there enough. He's a wide receiver 30 in usage. So like maybe you could do worse. With Jerry Jeudy, wanted to bring this up. The Browns injury report is just criminal. Backup left tackle, center, right guard, right tackle on the offensive line. And then in the skill group, Jerome Ford's on IR. Dylan Sampson and David Njoku both didn't practice the entire week. I'm expecting them to both miss. Cedric Tillman was given a hospital ball over the middle, and he's in a concussion protocol. Got absolutely wrecked. I think he's also on the injury with his rib injury. So it really is just Jerry Jeudy and Harold Fannin and Quinshon Judkins. Like, there's like literally nobody else that can get onto the field. So he's going to get utilized. Also wanted to mention that long touchdown, he ran like a slant route and then like ran like another slant route. Did he see it? Like that route that he had to do? He was like navigating through all these zone defenders. It was a fascinating route to even get there. It was completely off script. So yeah, you can do worse than I think Jerry Jeudy throwing a dart throw, but there's been no difference like that fourth line on our tiers in our fifth line.
Yep.
They're all projected for 30. So if you want to roll the dice on one flavor versus the next, there's really is no difference.
Yeah. And one name not on here, unfortunately, is Alec Pierce, who has been a notable name on these lists all season long. Yeah. I just don't think you can play a guy with one of the highest ADOTs in the league with a 44-year-old quarterback arm, despite what you just said about the arm. And then on top of that, Seahawks have only allowed one touchdown on a throw 20 more yards down the field to a wide receiver this season.
Yeah. I think we missed Jordan Addison along the way here. Let's see. I have him right.
He's at wide receiver 41, I thought, but I could be wrong.
I moved him up a little bit. You can throw him ahead of Michael Pittman. That's where I'll slot him in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any
the Cowboys.
Wise words on Jordan Addison?
No, there's no wise. There's nothing wise about the Minnesota Vikings pass game. Jordan Addison has dropped a couple potential like big plays out there, which he typically is sure-handed. But yeah, pass funnel against the Cowboys defense in a dome, like take a shot.
And we're still waiting on Rome Odunze's status. He's questionable at this moment, but this is why we have the Starts It show on Sunday morning. So hopefully you can join us for that one. And more importantly, join me over on the Dog app. What I'm playing this week. Michael Wilson, higher 7.5 targets. Stefon Diggs, higher 52.5 receiving yards. Ricky Pearsall, higher 14.5 first half receiving yards. There it is. You can go play that in the description down below. There'll be a link. If you use promo code the show, again, if you play $5 your first time, you get $75 in bonus cash in your direction. Again, Florida, Georgia, Texas, California, so many other states. We are in you. We weren't a couple years ago. So go and play on Underdog today. All right. Go and check out tomorrow's quarterback and tight end / game by game preview show. And we'll see you all there.